On Monday, Scott Walker announced he's running for president, and Hillary Clinton gave her first major economic address to the nation. And I gotta tell you, it was like the Grand Canyon was created between the two parties. It's downright shocking when you think about it. So Hillary Clinton, in her speech, made it very clear, and I'm going to quote this because I think she says it best. The defining economic challenges of our time is clear. We must raise income for hardworking Americans so that they can afford a middle-class life. We must drive strong and steady income growth that lifts up families and lifts up our country. And in addition, she says, today is not 1993 or 2009. We need solutions for the big challenges we face now. Now that quote right there to me was this aha moment where she's like, listen, I'm not my husband. I'm not Barack Obama. We need more transformative change, and maybe, just maybe, I'm the candidate that can deliver it for you. Now, in her speech, she goes on to talk about a couple really big things. First thing, she talks about the predistribution of wealth and securing the middle class. She also proposes tax reforms to encourage long-term business investment instead of short-term spending, comprehensive immigration reform to bring undocumented workers into the formal economy, new federal investments in renewable resources and medical research, paid family leave, earned sick days, enhancements for Social Security and the Affordable Care Act, middle-class tax relief, greater support for young people and low-income families, and new measures to strengthen and expand Dodd-Frank to stop Wall Street from being, unruly and out of control. And I think these are some very, very, very solid, very, very, very solid, progressively rooted issues. Issues that you hear Bernie Sanders talk about, issues that we've heard labor unions talk about, issues that you've heard progressives groups talk about for eons. Right? This ideal that if you want America to pull this up by their bootstraps, you have to give them boots and you have to give them straps. Right? And the idea of leveling the playing field. Hillary Clinton is clearly in that camp. Right? And that is where her coalition is. Your Latinos, your African Americans, your middle class working families. On the juxtaposition to that, Scott Walker made his major announcement. I want to quote this. He says, since I've been governor of Wisconsin, that is, we passed lawsuit reform, regulatory reform, we defunded Planned Parenthood, enacted pro-life legislation, we passed the Castle Doctrine and concealed carry, we now require a photo ID to vote in the state of Wisconsin. If our reforms can work in a blue state like Wisconsin, they can work anywhere in America. So juxtaposition, right? You have a candidate who not only for pushing the far, far right positions, but beyond pushing the far, far right positions, you also have a candidate who toted the ideal of praising supply-side economics, promising tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires, saying to grow the economy, you have to have tax cuts, even though, America, those tax cuts that he provided did not work in the state of Wisconsin. And now the state of Wisconsin are making harsh cuts to education. They're basically gutting the university system of Wisconsin, which has been its pride and joy and basically the pearl, the diamond in the Wisconsin castle. They're defunding it to high hell, right? And he totes mandatory drug testing for welfare recipients, basically limiting entrance to people, limiting the amount of people that can go into that program. A clear juxtaposition. So herein lies the problem. He's a very strong contender to be the GOP candidate. Hillary Clinton is a very strong contender to be the Republican nominee, the Democratic nominee. So when these folks get nominated, there is no middle, right? It's just the left and the right. And both parties, because of the economic situations that we're in and because of the hyperpolarization in our system, both parties are basically unequally yoked, and there's no center. So this becomes a base election. And beyond it becoming a base election, it's very clear the divisions of America are completely different. In Scott Walker's vision of America, people who are in labor unions are quote-unquote ISIS-like terrorists. Right? In Hillary Clinton's America, folks who are billionaires and millionaires should be taxed more. Those two ideals are mutually exclusive. which sort of leads to the larger problem that we have in our political system. We've become so polarized that there's no center. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm on the center, because I think I'm to the left of Hillary Clinton on most of these issues. But I think there's a problem when you don't have a center. Because when you don't have a center, what ends up happening in America is what we've seen for the past 3 or 4 years. You get absolutely, positively nothing done. Because everybody's afraid of coming to the center to solve America's major problems. Just saying.